Good afternoon, language lovers. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be dealing with a very sad topic. As you have seen by the title, we're going to be tackling the provisions under which Chauvin has been charged with murder and manslaughter against George Floyd. Before I discuss the provisions, I'd like to say that this is not just an American crime. This concerns all of us. Why? For two main factors. Number one, the dehumanizing factor. Number two, hate crime. It is a crime against a black person because he's black, and the way in which it was committed makes it beyond dehumanizing. Okay, so this is why it concerns me, and it should concern you. Had it been a white person, even if it was in the same way, which I don't believe it would happen, if it was perpetrated in the same way, the element hate crime would not be present, and that would make it less special than it is now. Okay, because brutality coming from police happens every day, everywhere. Unfortunately, it is more often than not in the United States. So I have no intention of tackling or talking about all dehumanizing crimes in the US or anywhere else in the world. And I will also not be talking about all the suffering in the world, because otherwise I would not have any other topic to deal with. If someone hates a race so much to the point that they're able to kill a person because that person is black and because of their culture, that means that that person, had he had the opportunity, that person would exterminate a race altogether, and that should concern everyone else. Yeah, so now let's talk about the provisions. The first provision being the Minnesota Statute 609-195A, that reads, "Whoever, without intent to effect the death of any person, causes the death of another by perpetrating an act imminently dangerous to others and evincing a depraved mind without regard for human life, is guilty of murder in the third degree and may be sentenced to imprisonment for not more than 25 years. Okay, so let's just break down the elements of this provision. Number one, the without intent to effect the death. In this case in particular, the police officer should have not had the intention to kill. We're going to go back to that one and discuss whether there was the intention or not. Number two, evincing depraved mind or depraved heart. This means that the perpetrator shows pleasure while committing the act, okay, or simply disregard towards human life. Yeah, and then the third one is really connected to the second one, which is indeed the disregard to the human life. Okay, so these are the three elements present on a third degree murder. Now let's just read what the first degree murder talks about, which is to me the one that should be applied to this case. First degree murder causes the death of a human being with premeditation and with intent to effect the death of the person or of another. Okay, so two elements here, intent and premeditation. Okay, on the third degree murder, we don't have an intention to kill and we don't have premeditation. Now let's discuss premeditation, which is a bit complex to say the least. Premeditation is not limited to meticulous planning. Okay, premeditation can happen within seconds. What is at stake is the process thought. Did you think about killing? It doesn't matter if it was a second before the act. So it's the process thought. And according to the case Berube versus State from 2009, If there is a repetition of the dangerous act, the perpetrator has time to reflect upon whether he's going to repeat it or not. Okay, the repetition itself becomes premeditation. How about Floyd's case? If we're going to pressure from the chest up to the head, it is common sense that the person may end up dying if we're talking about large minutes of such act. Okay, so what happens with George was that the police officer pressurized his neck for more than 8 minutes, including almost 3 minutes after he became inanimate. When George stopped breathing, that officer's knee kept pressurizing his neck for almost 3 minutes more. He realized that the victim had stopped breathing. It's impossible not to realize that, because the poor man was continuously begging for help. Okay, so it was impossible that the officer did not realize that the man all of a sudden was not saying a word. Plus, the witnesses, including the girl that was doing the filming, advised him that the man stopped breathing. The other officers also advised him that the man stopped breathing, and yet he continued pressurizing the poor man's neck. That should also contribute to his first-degree murder charge. Another thing is that when his body left the officer's knee, it was completely inanimate. He never ever recovered, and according to the paramedics, they never found a pulse on George, meaning that the immediate cause of death was the pressurizing of his neck. Let's forget about what the complaint is saying, that he had underlying conditions, plus that he was under the influence of something. We all have underlying conditions, yet we all live longer than George did. Let's forget about the contributing factors. Objectively, the kneeing of a neck causes death, and the fact that he was telling him that he was dying, that should have sufficed for him to stop the pain, but he did not. He was telling you that he will stop breathing. If you stop breathing, you die, isn't it? Was he bluffing? Okay, he was bluffing, so what? Was he a threat to you? You with your hands in your pocket, were you feeling threatened by him? Did you really need to do what you did, the way you did? No. So why should this be considered a third-degree murder? Prosecutors team, please consider this a first-degree murder straight away. You want to favor him. This is why you are charging him with third-degree murder, and we, the world, will not allow that. Luckily, during the process, it is always possible to turn a third-degree charge into a first-degree charge. That has happened before. The thing is that the prosecutors want to make sure that they charge a defendant with what they can prove. But hello, what else is there to investigate in order for you to determine that there has been an intention to kill? There's nothing else to be investigated there. And forget about the underlying conditions. This is really bullshit. This is favoritism, okay? Stop with that shit. And we're not going to allow this to happen. Thank you very much for watching. Have a lovely week. Let's just keep watching this from afar. And thank you very much for all the demonstrators on this case. They are doing us a favor as humanity. Have a good week.